Emma Thompson had always believed in the sanctity of love, in the quiet strength of marriage, and in the life she had meticulously built in Chicago with Daniel, her husband of 7 years, the man whose easy charm, dazzling smile, and confident swagger had once made her heart leap with joy. And yet, all of that crumbled one Thursday afternoon when she returned home unexpectedly from the marketing firm, exhausted from a grueling week of client meetings, and was immediately struck by the faint, sweet scent of another woman's perfume lingering in the living room, a scent that made her stomach twist and her chest tighten. And when she stepped closer, she saw Daniel fumbling with his phone, caught mid-gesture, and she froze for a heartbeat. Shock
paralyzing her. Before a torrent of emotions crashed through her like a tidal wave: grief, anger, humiliation,
disbelief, and then, beneath the pain, a spark of something darker and fiercer ignited: determination, the burning certainty that she would not be broken by his betrayal. And as Daniel looked up, eyes wide, stammering, "Emma, it's not what it looks like," she felt nothing but the cold clarity of resolve. She retreated into observation, into silence, as days turned into weeks, learning his patterns, noting the careless slips, the half-truths he muttered, and the hours he spent texting someone whose name made her blood boil. And at night, alone in her bedroom, she would whisper to herself, "You thought I was weak. You thought I'd crumble. You thought wrong," her mind weaving a plan as precise as a surgeon's scalpel, mapping out every eventuality, rehearsing every confrontation, and over the months, she began reclaiming the pieces of herself that had been dulled by his deceit. Morning runs through Lincoln Park, Pilates classes that strengthened not just her body but her resolve, reconnecting with old friends who reminded her she was worthy of respect and love, and nights spent perfecting presentations and strategies for her marketing firm, excelling at work so that her talent and brilliance shone like a beacon, all while maintaining a serene, almost naive facade at home, speaking to Daniel with measured calm, masking the storm raging beneath. And sometimes, when she caught his gaze lingering on her a fraction too long, she would smile faintly, the smallest curve of her lips carrying the silent promise of retribution. And she began writing the story of her revenge in meticulous detail, imagining his shock, his shame, the realization of how he had underestimated her. And finally, when the timing was perfect, she orchestrated the gathering that would expose everything, inviting his mistress under the guise of networking, the loft elegantly arranged, warm lights highlighting every corner, a room full of friends, colleagues, and witnesses. And as Emma observed the mistress laughing, oblivious, she released subtle truths into the conversation, letting the evidence she had gathered, screenshots, messages, and discreet photographs, slip into the discourse like a tide that could not be turned back. And Daniel, sensing the unraveling of his lies, stammered, "Emma, wait please," his voice cracking, his confidence shattered. And she finally allowed herself a small, satisfied smile, the kind that was not cruel but righteous, a triumph of intelligence, patience, and indomitable spirit. And she realized that the revenge she had orchestrated was not about humiliation alone, but about reclaiming her life, her dignity, and her future. And over the following months, Emma poured herself into launching her own consultancy, traveling across the country to New York, Boston, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, immersing herself in art galleries, cafes, the city lights, the music of life she had once abandoned in grief. And through it all, she discovered joy in the simplest things: laughter unburdened by betrayal, sunsets on beaches, quiet mornings with coffee and a journal, and one afternoon, At a New York gallery bathed in golden sunlight, she met Michael, a man calm, genuine, whose warmth and steady presence allowed her to open her heart cautiously but fully, whose laughter was sincere, whose eyes reflected admiration without condescension. And in him,
she saw a life she had almost forgotten existed. And as their friendship blossomed, she found herself laughing freely again, her walls
softening with each shared story, each stolen glance, until a tender love slowly emerged, grounded not in desperation or need, but in mutual respect, trust, and understanding. And as they drove through autumn leaves, wandered art streets, shared quiet breakfasts, and confided their dreams beneath city lights, Emma felt the exhilaration of freedom, of having crafted a life that was hers alone, full of love, success, and unshakable empowerment. And each day reminded her that betrayal could have destroyed her, yet she had transformed it into strength. And standing on her Chicago loft balcony one night, the skyline sparkling beneath the stars, she whispered into the wind, "I am free. I am whole. I am unstoppable," feeling the weight of the past fall away, replaced by the radiant certainty of her own resilience, her own brilliance, and the love she had chosen on her terms. As Emma Thompson's life flourished, she continued to amaze herself with her own strength, building a consultancy that became the envy of peers, her reputation a reflection not only of her brilliance but of the courage and intelligence she wielded, while Daniel, once the center of her world, became a cautionary shadow of arrogance undone, and she reveled in the subtle joy of her independence, the quiet satisfaction of a life reclaimed. And yet, with Michael by her side, she discovered that happiness could be deeper, more fulfilling than any revenge could provide. As they explored cities together, from the historic streets of Boston to the bustling avenues of Manhattan, from the serene beaches of California
to the artsy corners of Chicago, their laughter echoing in galleries, cafes, hidden parks, and quiet streets, and sometimes,
in the soft glow of evening, she would catch his hand in hers and feel a warmth she had never known before. A reminder that trust could be rebuilt, love could be gentle, and hearts could heal. And the journey that had begun with heartbreak and betrayal now culminated in a life of brilliance, laughter, and freedom, where every step, every breath, every choice was hers. And as she stood one night atop her loft balcony, the wind teasing her hair, the city alive beneath her, she felt the intoxicating thrill of complete liberation, a life that she had earned, designed, and loved. And she realized that the most satisfying revenge was not anger, not humiliation, but thriving beyond the pain, living fully, loving boldly, and reclaiming joy in a world she had once thought had turned against her. And in that moment, as the stars reflected in her eyes and Michael's, warmth pressed gently against hers, Emma Thompson knew, with the deepest certainty, that she had turned betrayal into power, heartbreak into strategy, and pain into the most extraordinary, radiant, and empowering life she could ever imagine. A cinematic triumph of resilience, cunning, love, and unshakable happiness.